It was a blistering summer afternoon in Atlanta, the kind where the sun felt like a relentless spotlight and even the shade offered little relief. Mariah wiped the sweat off her forehead as she maneuvered her old, dented Toyota through the crowded streets. Her heart raced, not from the heat, but from the mounting anxiety. She had promised her 2 children she'd pick them up from school by 3, and the gas light on her dashboard had been blinking ominously for the past 10 miles. She spotted a small gas station tucked between a laundromat and a convenience store and swerved in. The station was packed, cars lined up to the pumps like bees drawn to honey. Mariah groaned. She had no time to wait in a long line. Desperate, she glanced at the next pump over, and froze. A motorcycle unlike anything she'd ever seen was parked there. It was massive, gleaming black with chrome that reflected the harsh sunlight. The exhaust pipe seemed almost alive, throbbing with a deep, resonant hum that made her chest tighten involuntarily. The man astride it looked like he had ridden straight out of a movie, leather vest adorned with patches, heavy boots, and mirrored sunglasses that concealed his eyes. But there was something about him, a quiet confidence, almost regal in its danger, that made Mariah step back instinctively. As if sensing her gaze, the biker swung his leg off the seat with effortless grace, landing on the asphalt with a thud that echoed. He removed his sunglasses, revealing sharp, calculating eyes that scanned the area quickly, as though he were evaluating everyone around him. Mariah suddenly felt small and exposed. Standing beside her aging car, the man walked toward the pump, reaching for his wallet, and then stopped. His brows furrowed. He patted his pockets, then emptied them onto the motorcycle seat. Mariah noticed the slight twitch of panic that crossed his otherwise composed face. It was subtle, but enough to humanize the imposing figure before her. Mariah hesitated. Normally, she wouldn't interfere with strangers, especially someone who looked like he could crush her car with a flick of his finger. But something compelled her to act. Maybe it was the slight nervousness in his eyes, the way he seemed more flustered than menacing. Swallowing her apprehension, she stepped forward. "Here," she said, lifting her hand and showing her card. "I can pay for your gas." The biker blinked, as if the offer had startled him. He opened his mouth, then closed it, clearly unsure how to respond. Thanks," he said finally, his voice low, rough like gravel but not unkind. He tipped his head slightly in acknowledgement, a small gesture that somehow felt like a bow of respect. Mariah felt a flush of heat that wasn't from the sun. She smiled nervously, then returned to her car, feeling a mix of relief and lingering adrenaline. The encounter had been brief, but it had left a mark on her day, a tiny ripple of excitement in the monotony of her routine. As she pumped her own gas, Mariah couldn't help stealing glances at the biker. He had mounted his massive motorcycle again, the engine vibrating beneath him, yet he paused to look back at her. For a moment, it felt as if he were silently saying, "I won't forget this." Then, with a roar that shook the ground, he sped away, disappearing down the street like a shadow dissolving at dusk. Mariah shook her head. "It's just a man on a bike," she told herself. Yet her heart kept racing, the encounter replaying in her mind. Her kids were waiting, and she had errands to run, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Something small, yet profound, had shifted in the day. The rest of her afternoon passed in a blur. She picked up her children, helped them with homework, and prepared a quick dinner. By the time the dishes were done, night had fallen. Mariah's neighborhood was usually quiet at this hour, the occasional car passing by, dogs barking in the distance. She felt the comforting hum of domestic life, until a faint sound pierced the calm. At first, it was almost imperceptible, a low, throaty rumble in the distance. Mariah froze, tensing instinctively. It grew louder, rolling down the street like distant thunder, vibrating through the walls of her home. Her pulse quickened. Motorcycles. Here. On her quiet street, curiosity and fear battled within her. She tiptoed to the window, peering out cautiously. Her street, normally peaceful, was now alive with the sound of engines, hundreds of them, it seemed, echoing off the houses. She blinked, unsure her eyes were showing her the truth. Then, through the dim light, she saw a line of motorcycles approaching, their riders silhouetted against the streetlights, engines glowing and throbbing like living creatures. Her breath caught when she saw him. The biker she had helped just hours ago was at the front, guiding the pack with calm authority. And behind him, dozens, maybe hundreds of other bikers followed. They moved with precision, a rolling wave of chrome and leather, and yet there was no chaos, no aggression, just a powerful, mesmerizing presence. Mariah's hands trembled as she stepped back from the window. What is happening?" she whispered to herself. Her children, sensing her tension, peeked from behind her, eyes wide with awe and fear. The pack came to a stop right outside her home. Mariah's heart pounded in her chest like a drum. The biker she had helped dismounted with the same calm authority he had carried all day, and this time, there was no rush, no hidden anxiety. He walked toward her porch, boots clicking against the concrete, his eyes softening as they met hers. Mariah's mind raced. Why would a gang of bikers, known for fearsome reputations, be outside my house? Questions collided with fear, awe, and something else she couldn't quite name, anticipation, perhaps, or the strange thrill of being part of a story she never expected. The night was silent, save for the low hum of engines now idling, a sound that vibrated through her bones. Mariah realized, with a shiver, that this encounter, like the one earlier at the gas station, was far from ordinary. Something had shifted, and she had no idea what to expect next. Mariah's heart raced as she stepped onto her porch, her children clutching her hands tightly. The roar of motorcycles vibrated through the neighborhood, an almost primal sound that seemed to announce the arrival of a force far larger than life. She froze when she saw him, the Hell's Angel she had helped at the gas station earlier that day, walking toward her. But this time, the fear she had felt earlier was replaced by something she couldn't quite name: curiosity, awe, and a strange sense of hope. The man's eyes, usually hidden behind mirrored glasses, now held an intensity that was startling in its honesty. Even the smallest act of kindness shouldn't be forgotten, he said simply. His voice was low, gravelly, but carried a warmth that disarmed her. You helped me today. Now, it's our turn. Mariah blinked. Why our turn? She asked, her voice trembling, unsure if she had heard correctly. A subtle nod, then a wave of motion from him, and the bikers behind him began to move. One by one, they stepped down from their massive machines, each carrying something in their hands. Mariah's jaw dropped as she realized the sheer number of them, dozens, maybe 100 bikers, filling her street like a living wave of chrome and leather. Boxes of groceries appeared first, fresh fruits, canned goods, bread, and milk. Mariah's hands went to her mouth, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. Then came toys for her children, neatly wrapped in bright paper, along with books, puzzles, and even small bicycles. Her kids' eyes widened, mouths agape, as the bikers handed each child a gift with a quiet, respectful smile. Mariah felt tears welling in her eyes. She tried to speak, tried to thank them, but words failed her. She had expected nothing from the gesture at the gas station, and now she was witnessing a level of gratitude that defied belief. Why are you doing this? She finally managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. The biker shrugged, an easy, casual motion that contrasted sharply with the gravity of the scene. The world's full of bad stories. Sometimes it's nice to be part of a good one, he said, glancing at his crew with a subtle nod. There was a code in his eyes, a silent understanding shared among them. They weren't here to show power, intimidate, or demand respect. They were here to honor something simple, kindness. As the bikers continued unloading, Mariah's neighbors began to gather, peeking from behind fences and doors. Smartphones appeared, capturing videos, recording the surreal sight of the infamous Hell's Angels performing acts of generosity in a quiet suburban street. Gasps, murmurs, and exclamations spread through the crowd. Some couldn't believe their eyes. Others had heard the rumors of the gang's reputation but had never imagined this gentler side existed. One biker, a tall man with tattoos snaking down both arms, approached Mariah and handed her a voucher for car repairs. Saw you pumping gas in that old Toyota, he said with a small grin. Figured this might help. Mariah could only nod, unable to speak, overwhelmed by both gratitude and disbelief. Another biker knelt down, placing a small gift bag at the feet of her children. For you, he said simply. Keep being kind to the world, no matter what it throws at you. The sincerity in his tone was so raw, so human, that it brought tears to Mariah's eyes. For nearly an hour, the bikers worked silently but efficiently, transforming her modest yard into something resembling a community festival. Each act was deliberate yet unpretentious. There were no cameras, no theatrics, just people honoring the power of a small, meaningful gesture. Finally, the man who had started it all, the one Mariah had helped, stepped forward. His eyes softened as he looked at her, and she realized she wasn't afraid anymore. Whatever fear had gripped her before had evaporated under the warmth of their collective goodwill. Take care of yourself, he said. Take care of them, he added, nodding toward her children. And remember, the world will always throw challenges at you, but a little kindness can make a difference. Sometimes, it comes back in ways you can't imagine. Mariah's voice quivered as she tried to respond. I don't know what to say. This is incredible. I never expected, he interrupted her gently. You don't need to say anything. Just keep living your life. That's enough. Then, as suddenly as he had appeared, he mounted his motorcycle and rode to the front of the pack. A low rumble filled the air again, and one by one, the bikers climbed back onto their machines, engines roaring to life. The sound was deafening and thrilling, shaking the windows, rattling the fence posts, and making the night feel alive. Mariah watched, mesmerized, as the bikers formed ranks and slowly rolled down her street, disappearing into the darkness from which they had arrived. When the last motorcycle faded from sight, silence returned. Mariah looked around at the gifts, the groceries, the toys, and the vouchers, all symbols of an extraordinary gesture she would never forget. Her children hugged her tightly, whispering how amazing it had been to see real-life heroes in action. Mariah laughed through tears, feeling a sense of hope and empowerment she hadn't felt in years. In the days that followed, the story spread through the neighborhood, local news stations, and even social media. Videos of the bikers' generosity went viral, challenging every preconceived notion about them. People began to see the humanity behind the leather jackets, the compassion behind the tough exteriors. And Mariah, a single mother who had acted on impulse at a gas station, found herself at the center of a story about gratitude, kindness, and unexpected heroes. She often thought about that summer afternoon, the fear, the uncertainty, and ultimately, the extraordinary act that had changed her life. It reminded her that even the smallest gestures could ripple outward, creating waves of hope, community, and connection. And sometimes, when she looked at her children playing with the new toys, or when she drove her repaired car through the city streets, she could swear she heard the distant roar of motorcycles in the wind, a reminder that in a world that often seemed harsh and unforgiving, kindness could arrive in the most unexpected, powerful, and unforgettable ways.